Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to the RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kanas City Monarchs, and I told you that I would be doing a podcast and a game that I got to go to, watch, and get a new podcast afterwards. I told you it was gonna happen. I didn't know when it was gonna happen, but it happened today. And what a game, what a fun time it was. Let me just paint the picture for you. All right, they had back our school day at the ballpark. The stadium was packed with kids from all over, all different kinds of school corporations, uh, from Crown Point to Lake Station, a handful of Gary Hammond schools. I mean, it was just loaded, and I have to give absolute credit to the teachers that have to that have to keep those kids in line. I mean, I'm not talking like these are middle schoolers, high schoolers. I think there was a couple middle schoolers, but it was like seventh grade. So a lot of this seemed they were more or less like that third, fourth, fifth, that the elementary style. I mean, that's the style you're kind of going for, I would suppose, in this aspect. But just to keep those kids in line, I mean, it wasn't. I think next year, what the RailCats should do is not just give individual tickets out. I think they should give the manifest to the schools, and this is what the rows and everything. Just paint a nice map for them, so that way it's easier to control. So that way the schools can come down and like the principals, superintendents, that kind of stuff. They can mark out where everything, for their sections group, whatever. That I think that might be a little better. I think also there shouldn't be. I think going forward, you get the season ticket holders and everything else, and then from there you say, all right, for school day, these are the areas that we're marking up, because there was one complication where a teacher had a seat and then a other fan came and was like, "Hey, we purchased these seats. Like, what's going on?" So they had a miscommunication. They both had tickets. Like, they both had tickets for that seat. So I think it should be ran a little bit smoother. They should have some kind of blockage to a certain extent. I mean, I get if you run into season ticket holders and that stuff, but I think it's one of those that if they mark the area out and someone buys season tickets for that that time slot or that game at those seats, I think they should either say, hey, this is what's going on. Can we either move you to a different seat, or can we just refund you the money? It's something along those lines. They might have something that in. I'm just an outside person looking inward on this. I know I'm talking, but it's a podcast. Like, I'm just not gonna break down every game. I'm gonna go, and when I watch a game, I'm going to see which let you know what I saw. I mean, this isn't a post game show that's on TV where it's like, okay, this is what happened, and this is what also happened, and this is no. I'm going to talk. I like to talk about the game, about the experience, because I mean, as a fan, we go for the experience. We don't go for. I mean, well, we go for the players. I mean, obviously, you go for the players, watch the players, but you go for the environment and watching a team play. So, but with that being said, I also think that this was nearly a sold out game. I mean, it was hard for me to get tickets. They had certain areas that were already blocked off, and I mean, yeah, I got them last minute, but luckily I got them. Row C, right there, just right behind the RailCats uh, up deck on deck circle, right there on the aisleway. So I got the tickets I really wanted, just to be able to sit there and go by myself and enjoy a game by myself. And yes, there was a lot of kids there, but on the flip side of that, I also think that that school day is probably going to be your busiest time of the year, and I understand that probably staffing is a bit of an issue, but the lines. I missed an inning and a half because I was thirsty. I wanted something to eat real quick. It took an inning and a half for me to even get through the line. But once I got through, it was a little bit easier. But I mean, it's just a boatload of people. They only had a handful of concession stands open, so I think if they were to open up more, it would have broken up the monotony of just everyone funneling in together. And then you also have kids who don't fully pay attention. So there's a lot of kids like flooding in, seeing, oh, here's my friend. I'm going to jump in front of everyone else. And people that paid to be there and so on and so forth. Like I had a group of kids cut in front of me. I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not really gonna complain about it and be salty about it. They're kids that they're not at school. They're here to have fun, whatever the case may be. So it is what it is. Also, I think for the school standpoint, because it got to like the seventh inning and they all had to go home. Like they had to all go back to school. I would like to see the schools let the kids stay the entire game. I mean, a game's gonna run at least 3 hours. It almost went 3 hours. It was just a little bit under 3 hours. So I think personally you should slot them. I understand that you have the bus ride back, blah blah blah. And I understand that maybe kids can't, their rides are going to be at a certain time or school, they have to be on the school bus and so on and so forth. But I think there should be some kind of exceptions. I think because I mean realistically it was a fun game to be at. I mean it was a low scoring game. RailCats won 2-1. The first inning was very exciting, but it was a low scoring games. It doesn't really keep everyone's attention all the time. But when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, because well, I mean there was nothing major that went on in the ninth inning, or in the bottom of the ninth, but it was still exciting to get that third out, and but it just sucked that not a lot of kids were there cheering and so on and so forth. But you had a packed house, and then they had to leave because they had to get back to the schools. I understand the logistics behind everything. I just wish sometimes that the schools would give that field trip more of a leeway so they can enjoy the whole game, because a lot of kids are like, oh, we have to leave. Like it's not even, the game's not even over yet. Like the game's gonna be over in another hour or so. So the kids understand that the game's not over and they're leaving. I understand it. I get it. It would be a different situation if it was like when the RailCats played King County at King County and they had a rain delay. That was like a 3 hour rain delay. Like I understand that. The game hasn't even started. You're delaying the game by 3 hours. The kids got to go. They're not gonna keep them out all day. But I get it. I understand it. It is what it is. Some schools stayed, but a lot of them left. But that's enough about the environment. Let's go ahead and talk about the game. Let's see. Nick Garcia, outstanding. I didn't have his stat line. Let me grab it right now. The point streak isn't updating. It didn't update the game at all. So I was kind of jumbled up after, because I went to go get something to eat and something to drink there in the fifth inning, and I missed the fifth and some of the sixth. So I was looking to go back and look at the stats and stuff like that, but kind of can't. So I kind of have to rely a little bit on the Gary South Shore RailCats Twitter page here. So Nick Garcia, he pitched 5 innings, one walk, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned run, and that, well, no, actually he didn't. That was Phillips came in and he gave up the earned run, so he didn't give up anything on that. I think he gave up a couple hits. Let's see, from what I have in my pocket here, one hit, I believe so. About 1 hit. No, 2 hits. 2, 3. Say about 3 hits. He had about 3 hits. Like I said, I'm sorry, it's not the perfect as the stat line. It kind of threw me off a little bit because I did have to drive home. So sometimes you tend to forget things and other things were going on. People were getting in front of me, behind me. I mean, it was just big. At the beginning it was a little bit of a crapshoot, just trying to watch what was going on. But I mean, you start out the game. Woodworth, Javion Williams strikes out looking, and then Woodworth comes in, he walks, and then Jackson Smith, man, this guy he's been on fire. He got on base. He had 2 hits today. He had 1 hit yesterday, but he got on base a handful of times yesterday. He got hit by pitch. So that's 1, 2, 4, five, six, 4 out of 6 times he got on base. So, um, that's you want someone that's gonna. I mean, he doesn't. He may not have the power that Michael Cruz does. Michael Cruz wasn't playing. I don't forget if he got hurt. Um, but the way he's swinging the bat, he's just getting it where most players aren't. He's finding the holes, the gaps, getting nice line drives. Um, right, he went uh, just right to right field, right center field. I mean, a nice line drives right to right center field. So that's exactly where you want as a left-handed hitter to take it right there. So I think he's been stellar, and he's been stellar behind the plate. I did see the pitching coach kind of shake his head at one point. Tom Thornton shaking his head at one point at Jackson. I think it was a little bit in the 8th or 9th. It seems like Jackson has a little bit of a framing issue that Thornton doesn't like, so that's something he's got to work on. But I mean, it's only his handful of time playing this season, so Mike Cruz's been doing the majority of the work back there. But I mean, I like Jackson back there. I think he's a very good defensive catcher. He's aware of the situation of the game. He didn't get anyone today stealing, but he was pretty close. If it was the one bouncer was kind of off the way, but he threw down to first. It was a left-handed left-handed batter. The guy was creeping. He got the ball and he just fired it down there. So I like his defensive play. His batting has been as good as well. So I mean, even at that, you may want to slot him into the DH role if Cruz comes back, because he's been hitting the ball. He's getting on base. I mean, you can't punish a guy by not getting him at bats if he's been hitting. Has been consistent. Even Ray Jones has been very good as well. Jones was he got a single to center field that brought in Woodworth, and then Walraven grounded out to shortstop that brought in Jackson Smith. So there was your 2 runs from the RailCats right there, all in the first inning. I mean, not terrible day. I think Javion Williams had a rough day. He ended up getting hit in the face in the 7th. That drew blood. He was down for a handful of minutes, about 5 minutes, and you could just see it coming out of his mouth, out of his nose. I couldn't really tell exactly. But that was a scary sight to see, him getting hit, because that is that's a serious thing. He got a fastball straight to the face. There was no reacting. That ball came in a lickety split, and it was just not pretty. I mean, it was just reaction, and a lot of people didn't really see it or understand what happened. Like, as soon as I saw it, I knew what happened. He got hit in the face, and I was looking to see if he had the jaw guard. He didn't. I guarantee you he may be wearing the jaw guard after this game, because he was down. It wasn't like a little bit of spitting up blood. No, it kept coming out. So like I said, I don't know if it hit him in the nose or in the mouth, in that kind of general vicinity. If he's missing any teeth, I don't know what went on with that. So that it just kind of sucked to see that he got hit. He's been hurt. He comes back in the lineup, and then it takes away the speed and stuff like that for him. But then let's see, he got hit, and then what we're seeing, and then I believe it was on the Jackson Smith hit, his second hit of the game. Davion Williams came in for Javion Williams, and then got caught at home trying to get going from, I believe it was first to home. I think it was first to home. He got caught on a beauty. That it was a rocket. I believe it's by Hernandez. I mean, it was one of those, like, you're testing the right fielder, because he was running up on the ball, but then by the time that he really got the ball, Davion was already like maybe a fourth of the way to home. So I think St. Jim's had the right idea to send him. I think everyone in the stands was like, yeah, send him, because one, you need the run. It's in the 8th inning, or the 7th, 8th inning. So you kind of needed that a little bit, and he just got mowed down. I mean, it was just a perfect I mean, you couldn't have thrown the ball any better. It was on a laser, right? I mean, pitcher perfect. If you're thinking of a pitcher picture perfect play. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself because sometimes I get confruncled up when I'm trying to talk. And I mean, it was the tag. The catch barely had to move. I'm talking like right where Williams was sliding. Like it was just right on the dot. Like when you think of the perfect throwout at home, this is what you're thinking of. I mean, there was no bounce. It was right there. Tag applied, and he was out by a mile. Um, you couldn't really blame him on that portion of it. It was a good game. It was a good win. I think that everything kind of clicked. I mean, the pitching was very well. I mean, we give up one run, and you take a very good Kansas City Monarch team and you limit them to one run. Um, that's what you need. I mean, you score 2 runs, you hold them to one, you're gonna win. You're gonna win 10 out of 10 times if you do that. Is that always realistic? No, but I think the bats were there. I mean, you're getting hits from players that you weren't really expecting this year. Ray Jones, Jackson Smith. They got a handful of hits. I mean, I see a lot of the frustration. I would say Burgess struck out in the eighth, and he cracked his bat. There you see the frustration, especially when people are making contact, they're getting on base, they're doing things successfully, and you're still sitting there with nothing. Wall Raven had a nice hit; he got an RBI, so that's you're. I think that's a more productive at bat. You can look back on and look at that. That's a positive. Right there's a positive because you put the ball in play, you scored a run. If you don't put the ball in play and you strike out, it's a 1-1 game. We're going to extra innings. So you see it on Tom's face as well. There's a little frustration going on that aspect of it. Lingua got a hit. He's still been pretty solid. Olin walked in the first. He's been solid as well. He didn't get a hit today. But that's what I mean. You're wanting that. You're wanting that type of game where they're hitting the ball and it's accumulation of hitting the ball, walking, putting the ball in play. It's a handful of that. And I wonder if anyone's gonna. I need to ask once I go to another game if I can talk to the players. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to. People are there. They want to get autographs of the players and stuff like that. So I don't want to like interrupt that kind of thing. But with Woodworth being on second, I don't really know if that's his natural position because every time so far when I've seen him field the ball, he looks like nervous to a certain extent. He made a play. I think it was in the first inning on Sweeney's hit to him. No, I don't think because there was no one on base at that point. There was one. It was Gillespie's play. I don't know if they had like a hit and run kind of situation, but he went over to get the ball and like he didn't really set himself. He just kind of fell. So I don't know if he's just having a hard time reading the ball or if he's nervous about something. He just doesn't seem comfortable to me. I just don't know if that's just a lack of live hitting to him, something like that. I mean, there's been a lot of like him diving, so I don't know if he's just trying to make the highlight reel by diving or whatever the case may be, or he's just not getting a good read on the ball, or something. It just doesn't seem comfortable. Wall Raven had a beautiful play in the first on Booker. Booker hit the ball basically right behind third base, and he scooped it and fired it straight over, and it was no hiccup. So Wall Raven's been good at third. I'll give him that. The batting may not be there, but the hitting or the batting may not be there, but the fielding is. And I mean, they didn't convert an error today, and they ended up winning. So that's always a positive when you look on back to, wins and losses. I mean, they had a very good first inning. Like I said, you can't win a game in the first, but you can definitely lose a game in the first. And when you put the pressure on them and you shut them down defensively and, pitching, defense, when you shut this team down, like, they're not going to score. Obviously, if that's what they do, you can just shut them down. They're not going to score, and your offense turns around and, and scores. If they don't have that first good inning, they could have lost 1-0 just on the basis of them. They can't get any runs in, but they did. They got a good first inning, and you kept that momentum going. It did help. There was a lot of fans there. Fans are a big factor into games. If you're at the home field and it's a packed stadium, you want to put on a show. Like, if you go to the stadium and there's a handful of people, like, okay, I'm just here to play baseball. But if it's a packed stadium, they may not know your name, they may not know who exactly you are, they may not go to RailCats games all the time, but there's a lot of fans, and you want to put yourself on the stage, and you want to perform at the highest level just because that there's fans watching, and that gets people talking when you do something good or you do something productive, or if that gets people talking and entertained with the game itself and the RailCats. I think the RailCats did a wonderful job on the school day. I walked in and they're playing songs from El Canto. I think that's a new movie that everyone loves. No one talks about Bruno, I think, is one of them. I've seen the movie a handful of times, but I don't know all the names of the songs. But they had, sing-alongs. They had different things like that. So I think they did a good job at trying to get the kids going as much as you possibly can, get the kids going. So, but in all respects of the game, it was a good game by the RailCats. It was a game that they needed to play perfect. They did play it perfectly. They did what they needed to do in the times they did. There was, maybe a couple where you kind of wish you had something back. But they had people on base. They had people at there plenty of times. Just, the counts weren't there or the outs weren't there to drive those people in. But in all layman terms, it was a good game. Ray Jones, they gave him the player of the game, which I think he did. He played a very good game, but I also think Jackson Smith played a very good game. He didn't get an RBI or anything like that. He didn't get the big hit, the big time, but he got on base. So I look at him. He got 2 hits on the day. I think he was the only one that got 2 hits. I guess Ray Jones did get 2 hits as well. So, I mean, those are your top 2. Those are my top 2 offensive performers right there, Jackson Smith and Ray Jones. So, Ray Jones, obviously, with the 2 hits in the RBI, would get the player of the game. But we also can't forget about Nick Garcia. He pitched a very good game as well. The starting pitching really hasn't been terrible. They've almost been pitcher perfect the way you want them to be, except the one game where Cuello got hurt, and I'm pretty sure he's still in a sling, so there's something major going on with that. So, it's, if he didn't get hurt, if he wasn't feeling some kind of pain, we may be talking about the best start for starting pitchers in RailCats history. Like, I don't, in any baseball, I don't know really, the pitchers, I mean, you could even, it's kind of weird. I compared this team, when you look at the foundation, or what the season, if you look at the season neck on neck, how it's going, I compare them to the White Sox. Now, the White Sox have struggled offensively, which you're not expecting to struggle offensively because they have the great batters in Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Grandal. You can put Vaughn in there. Anderson, all them, you put those players in it, and they're starting to get a little bit hotter. But then you look at the starting rotation. Lynn, Giolito, I know Lynn's been out all year. Giolito, Cease, Kopech, Keuchel not really, but Cueto coming in as well. I mean, you look at that team, they really weren't scoring runs, but their pitching has been dominant. But then you get to the bullpen, right? And that's kind of been where the issue has been at, is when you put the bullpen in. And that's when Nick Garcia was out, and then Phillips came in. He shut the door. He gave up 1 run, but then he shut the door after that, and that's what you need. That's a perfect. Giving up 2 runs is going to win you 90% of your games. I guarantee you that you're going to win 90% of your games if you give up 1 run. So in all, a very good RailCats game. I'm glad I get to come on here and be like, hey, yeah, we won. It was a good game. I was there at the game. I got excited. It was a lot of fun. And if you haven't yet been out to the RailCats games, go. You'll get to sit wherever the heck you want. You get to, you go to big ballparks, and sometimes you're gonna miss an inning and a half like I did, but that was just because the stadium was packed. And I think, there's going to be a handful of times a year the RailCats going to pack their stadiums, but the more you put it out there, the more that you win games, the more you make it entertaining, the more likely people are going to go out to the games. And I like going out this. I mean, today was an unplanned day. I was off. My fiance had to work, and I said, you know what? I want to go to a RailCats game. So I bought tickets and went to. I was going to go to last night's game as well, but she ended up coming. She thought she was going to have to work through the night, but she ended up coming home, so I had to cook dinner and stuff like that for her, being a good fiance as well. So it was just kind of nice to go out to a ball game, sit down, relax, and, not have to worry about pleasing anyone, just worry about pleasing myself and watching a game. But it's a fun time to take your family out to. I feel safe there. Yes, it may be in Gary, but you don't feel like you're walking through the south side of Chicago. I mean, even when I go to a White Sox game, I still feel comfortable. Like I still feel comfortable because you have the parking right there. You just walk into the stadium and you're good to go. In all, so happy the RailCats won at home and in front of was supposed to be a big kids crowd who would have gotten into it, so on and so forth. But that brings your record to 4-7. Only 3 games under 500. That's 11th game in the season. Well, you got 89 more games to go. Still very early, and you still can. You took a Kansas City Monarchs team that is a very good Kansas City Monarch team, and you shut them down to 1 run. There's still a lot of positives in this team. It's just once everything starts clicking, everything starts going in motion, that's when they may be able to catch a little bit of lightning in a bottle, get to 500, get a little bit over 500, and start battling for a playoff position. So I still think they can battle for a play. I don't think this team is as bad as their record is showing. It's just they're just not hitting the ball, and that's just going to come down to consistency and working with the hitting coach and figuring it out and letting it go. So all in all, RailCats win 2-1. It's a fun day at the ballpark. Beautiful day as well. Sunshine. I wore a sweatshirt all day because it was still a little chilly up there. But I can see why people have issues hitting home runs at the RailCats Stadium. That ball gets up in the air and that wind comes off of the lake and it just kind of kills the ball. So on summer days where there's not a lot of wind and it's hot, that ball's gonna fly. But on days like today, the ball's just gonna die, and it's very hard. I would say it's very hard to get a ball out of the steel yard just based on where the wind's at. Not saying the stadium is very big in general. It's just where the wind's playing and where they have the stadium face. If they had the stadium face the other way, that would be a home run derby park. I swear. They had solid contact all day, and the ball just gets up in the air and it just dies. Like you have to get it on the perfect angle just to drive it through the wind. But it is what it is. I'm still yet to see a RailCats home run at the steel yard. I don't know if they've yet hit a home run at the steel yard. I don't think they have. But when that day comes, I'll be excited. So with that being said, I'm your host, Kyle Savedich. So make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Go over to Facebook, talk to me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, talk to me on Twitter. I love talking about it. I'll talk with anyone about the RailCats. I like opinions from everyone else because, other opinions open yourselves up. People see things differently than I do. They get different stats than I do. Just stuff like that. I know I get the bare minimum stats, but sometimes that's all what's awarded to me. I don't have the time to do all the math on everyone. I do work a full-time job, so that I'm limited in some of the stuff that I get to do. But with that being said, good win. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you listened to it, if you watched it, all that good stuff. But whenever I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If it's afternoon, night, morning, whenever you're watching this, are listening to this more and less, I hope you have a good rest of your time, rest of your day, rest of your evening, and go Cats.